I didn't make these lists in college, but I didn't try.
I sort of tried. What?
She would. I liked people more than class. It was a real problem in college.
Okay, now we can come over here. Sure. Okay, so today we are introducing the first declension noun, and we're going to ignore this for the time being because we're going to go over vocabulary for first declension noun.
Okay.
So I know it seems a little daunting at first when you look at this up here, but it's actually not as bad as at first you think. So okay, so if you open your textbook,
Open. It's open.
you have your textbook open. You have it open to the vocabulary.
For lesson 5.
Yes. And we have all nouns, and so I'm going to let you work on pronouncing these nouns, and you can pronounce the article before or after, whatever you choose.
We looking at.
Both of you. We'll just go back and forth between the
All
two
right.
of you.
Hey, agape.
And that's love. You guys probably know that.
Do you want us to say that article? Okay. Hey, Alethea. Hey, Alethea.
And that's truth. You should be able to see that. It tells you that. I don't
Right,
know.
it does say that, yes. Hey, Hamartia.
Sin.
Hey, Basileia. Laya, is it Laya?
Laya, Basileia. Because epsilon iota, remember, is like EI in height.
Right. Hey, glossa. Tongue.
Mm-hmm. Or a language, and I think it's important because it's we think of a tongue, we think of this, so we say people are speaking in tongues, but they use it the same way we do. What's your native tongue? We're not talking about this thing in your mouth. We're talking about the language you speak. So it can refer to both. Most of the time, it's going to be a language. There are places, when a person's dumb, that Jesus touches their tongue, and that's obviously the literal.
And it's the same word.
Same word, yes.
Okay, so hey, graphe. Writing scripture. So we don't actually speak this Greek. Right, so nobody actually speaks this Greek. So if I listen to someone speaking Greek now, the way that they pronounce words, their accent, I guess, is that?
It would probably be a little bit different.
Similar?
Yeah, I listened to a guy about 2 weeks ago that is speaking in Greek and was going over the subjunctive in Greek, modern Greek. And you pick up words that you recognize because some of the vocabulary hasn't changed in 2,000 years. From what I understand, this system is a little simpler in modern Greek, and the verb system, I think, is a little simpler in modern Greek. I think. Don't quote me on that. But okay.
I'm not going to try to learn modern Greek. So.
Graphe, by the way, that's one of those words that we have. It's a loan word for us in English because we say when you graph something, graphite writing. So, okay, Peg.
Hey, didake.
Okay, or as some of my friends like to say, hey, didake. Some of them say didake.
Oh.
Teaching or instruction. And remember, the emphasis on that kind of teaching is teaching that it involves the implied conduct, that you're going to do something, as opposed to another first declension noun, didaskalia, which is instruction for learning, but not necessarily practice. So we got both those words in the New Testament.
Hedoxa.
Yeah, and we get the word like doxology from that.
Okay, that reading mark is not okay. Hey, ire on. No, hey, ire on.
Renee.
Oh, that's an A. Okay, rename. Wait, for the love of God. Hey, hi, rename.
Renee. There's not a
Renee.
new.
Okay.
There's not a new on the end.
Sorry.
Yeah. No, it's all right. I'm just trying to help.
Renee.
Renee. Okay. And the peace, and we use that today. We say a person has an irenic disposition. We're saying it's kind of a peaceful. You don't use that all the time? Okay.
Yeah, all the time. Hey, ecclesia.
That's an
Church.
assembly or a church. And we've got examples of that in the New Testament where it's an assembly in a city. Not a church assembly, but political assembly in Ephesus.
Okay, so when we see that word, it's not specific. It's not talking about a building, obviously. It's talking about a group of people.
Right.
And so it's different than a crowd.
It is because a crowd is just a disorganized. An aklos, good. Crowd could be just a disorganized crowd. Ekklesia is always the Greek word. Literally is ek. And then from kaleo, which you haven't learned, but a verb meaning to call. So it meant to call out. And the original idea was to call out people into an assembly, to meet for actual meeting.
Okay.
Although the irony of that is in Ephesus, and same thing happens in Corinth, both times you have the word ecclesia used of like the people of the city coming out against Paul. And they're very disorganized. In fact, the one time a person says, we could be charged with disorderliness, even though they're supposed to be an organized assembly. So,
Okay.
most of the time, let's put it this way, 90% of the time in the Bible, it's going to refer to what we call church. Although church doesn't come from that word, actually. It comes from a German Kirche, which is belonging to the Lord. So, kind of weird how that word came to apply to that. Okay, Peggy.
Hey, and Holly.
Okay.
Why isn't there a breathing mark?
There is a breathing mark.
There's no breathing mark.
Yeah, there's one over the epsilon. Oh, you don't have. I put one over the top of mine.
Ours has an accent.
Accent.
Where's no breathing mark?
And over in Holly.
Okay, well, I have to see yours online. They made a mistake because there's two accents on there. They've got an accent on the final syllable, which it's supposed to.
Got it.
So the first accent is supposed to be a breathing mark, and it's supposed to be a smooth breathing mark. No. So they just messed up when they put it
Press the
in.
wrong button.
Yeah.
Of course, you give me this one raising letter. Exousia. Authority.
Hey, Mera.
Okay, say that
I'm
again.
not. Hey, Mera. Hey, Mera.
No. You're doing something that you always tell me I do wrong. You're adding an extra vowel with the consonant in there. Hemera.
Oh, hey, Mera. Sorry.
Yeah.
Sorry. Well, wait.
Well,
Doesn't
say
the
that-
nu go with the epsilon?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, so it's just hey,
Oh, shoot.
mera. But you were going hey, mera. You were adding another vowel in
Sorry,
front of
hey,
it.
Mera. I'm still doing it. Hey. Because it has that stupid article. Hey. I can't do it with the article.
So you can say, hey, man. Hey,
Oh, you were saying the definite article at the beginning.
Yes.
There's my problem. I'm sorry. That was my fault, not yours, Peggy. I apologize.
Ha mathetes.
And that's a student or a disciple. And I prefer student because disciple has a lot of baggage in modern Christianity that if you translate a student, you don't have to deal with as much. But Peggy.
Okay. Hey, parabole.
Okay.
Hey, parabole.
Parable or a simile. Okay.
Parable or a simile.
Well, because that's what a parable is. A parable is a simile. You're comparing.
It's like.
Yeah, it's like, which is what I think a lot of your English Bibles, they start when Jesus told them in a parable, and he says, the kingdom of God is like, and then he goes on and tells the story.
Ha prophetes. Prophet.
A prophet. Okay. Now, when you look down through that list, down towards the bottom, there are two of those that when you look at the article, they have ha, because those two are masculine. Masculine, which I separated down here for their endings. Most of what we're going to have in first declension, or many of these in first declension, are going to be feminine. Now, but even in their form, the first declension noun is what we call the A class or alpha class, and so they're going to use essentially when you have eta over here, it's just a long version of the alpha in terms of the way we handle it. Okay, so does that make sense at all? In other words, your endings, and I tried to put these
Got a
up
lot
here.
of alphas.
These are your second declension endings. Remember that were omicron. So this is like a long omicron.
Oh, so that's the second declension.
So these,
Okay, wait.
those are what you've already learned. We already did those. I just put those up for comparison. Os, u, o, on, oi, on, ois, u.
Oh, okay.
Okay, so you already learned those.
Yes.
Those are what we've already gone over. I'm doing those so that you can see now what they've done in a lot. Of course,
Dear Lord,
it's a little bit different.
completely changed that.
But what they've done is they've changed these. Now these over here, there's a lot of similarity. They've replaced the alpha with the omicron. This stays the same. This is the bizarre one that stays the same.
Genitive ablative.
The plural genitive ablative form there. But even that top one up there, I, in the second declension is oi. So they're just kind of replacing, and a lot of times they're replacing O class with A class letters or vowels. So we're going to start over here on that first one, okay, which is not the one that your book starts with. So this is actually going to be the third chart in your book.
What about in your notes?
In my notes, it's also the third class because I basically, with my notes, I'm following the book. I'm not deviating.
Here's that one.
No, I think there should be. Oh, that's the third chart.
Feminine definite articles? What are you looking at? Just tell me.
No, it's the endings that are a, ace, a, ain. It says the chart for all other,
When the stem ends in any other letter, the nominative singular will end in.
Okay, so we're gonna work from, I'm gonna work off of this one, even though this is out of order from the book. So anyway, so in the nominative and the vocative, the ending is a, whereas when you were used to the second declension was os, but a, and then we go to ace for an ending, and then a, and the way you distinguish the lid ending from the nominative ending is that the a has a iota subscript.
Which is why I asked about the speaking, because if we don't say that,
If you're hearing it,
right, if you're just hearing it, then it sounds the same, the way we're reading it.
right. And there may be a way that it's pronounced with the iota underneath there.
It's I.
So you would pronounce, so you'd have a, ace, and then I in these,
Mhm.
okay? But you're gonna have another I when you get up to the nominative
Right.
plural. So, yeah.
Oh.
And then the accusative then is ain. Now, of those, I think when you look at those, when you look at the lid case, we used to have omega there with a iota subscript normally underneath there. And now they've just changed it to the long A class vowel, whereas we had a long O class vowel. Now we go to end the same thing when we get down to the accusative. We had on, Now we have ain, so they're just kind of changing the vowel. So we had on, now we've gone ain. We had o, now we have a. Then, anyway, we don't have to worry about the genitive ablative. Now let's move over into the plural. And again, you're just going to have to, eventually you're really going to have to just commit these to memory the same way you did with the first class. It's just going to have to be a, ace, a, ain, I, own, ice, os. So you're just going to have to be able to commit those paradigms of declension.
AI as in what word? Huh? AI, is it A?
AI, I.
As in what English word do we take that?
Well, I don't, let's go back. Let me go back.
I.
Right, they're the same. It's annoying.
Well, let's go back. I don't think
Back to the
that there
diphthong.
was a diphthong for AI, but maybe I'm wrong. I probably am.
Aisle.
Oh, I am. Oh,
Aisle.
there it is. Okay, yeah. I was trying to remember how they classified that. So, thing is, you're going to be reading it.
Say that.
Os. Because it's just an alpha there. So I own ice os. Okay. Okay. Now, and for some reason the books start with this and then go to this and then they do this one last. But I'm thinking this is any other letter. So what they mean by any other letter is when the stem ends in any other letter. In this case, I don't have this up here. I don't have this up here on the notes, but the example we're using here is graphe. Let me turn this so they can't really see this well. This is too small in the little corner, but it ends in, the stem ends in a phi, and so graph, and then we add that in. So any other letter, we go all 8F. These never change. These are the same no matter what's happening. The only changes are going to happen over here in the singular. Okay, well, okay. So now let's go back to the first. Let's go back to the first chart, and you'll see why we're saying any other letter. And that's because.
Is that this one?
Yes.
Okay. So now we have.
Oh.
So now we're using basileia. Okay. We're using basileia. Kingdom. And basileia ends in iota. So if a stem ends in epsilon, iota, or rho, if that's the way it ends, then we do not have those long A sounds. We're going to have the short A sound. Remember, notice this is the same. The plural is the same. The only thing that's changing here. So the eta is alpha. The ace is as. The A with the subscript, eta with the subscript, becomes alpha with the iota subscript, and the ain becomes on.
Okay, so here's where I got confused.
Okay.
It says, when the stem ends in epsilon, iota, or rho, the predominant vowel will be long A.
What?
Oh,
Long alpha.
oh. What they're saying is you're pronouncing the alpha with a long sound, but eta.
So should it be basileia?
Yes, because you're kind of. But I don't know anybody that does that. Everybody I always hear pronounce this. They always pronounce it basileia, basileia.
What's that word?
Basileia.
Oh, it's not.
It's
Bailaya.
Yeah.
Bailaya dancing in Spanish with Greek letters.
Oh, I see what happened. I just dropped the sigma out.
Yeah.
That's when I was right. There we go. Okay, that's how that ended up so bizarre.
So what? Basa, we keep the what?
So we should ignore that sentence that says.
Primarily, the thing about treating the A as a long sound, primarily, or long, is going to have to do with accent, where you're moving accent. Because accents change or move or fall on certain syllables that are long or short. And we remember we're not really fussing with the accents. What's your
So
question?
they would say basilaye.
We
But
we presume.
right.
What?
Just use the A then. Just keep that over there.
See now,
When I keep it.
see now we know how people feel when they're trying to learn English with all of its bizarre changes and such that go on. Okay. So if it has epsilon iota rho, then we're changing to the alpha instead of the eta. Okay. Then if the stem ends in a sigma, double lambda, or one of these are called double consonants. Zeta is like a DS, psi is ks or chi-s, depending on how you say that. Sigma, excuse me. If C is pi
You
sigma.
really don't need the X plus S.
Well, no, because that's not an X. That's a chi. It's a CH.
Oh,
So it's
no.
CHS.
Oh,
Because you don't say Christus, you say Christos. Yeah. So anyway. Okay. So when we have one of these, we change, we stay with the first one up there that we had, except that we change the nominative to an alpha and the accusative to an alpha. So it's kind of like a hybrid of these other two. But the plural stays the same. The plural does not change. So one thing, that's one good thing in here is the plural stays the same no matter what. The singular is where the change is.
And if we were pronouncing them the way that the book says we should pronounce them, nothing actually changes.
Because you're only changing in writing. But the reason you have to learn the writing is because you're going to be reading it out of the text. Yeah. And you're going to need to know, you're going to come across this and go, oh, what declension is this? And you would need that. There's reasons that you need to do that to be able to match words sometimes in the context with another word that refers to it. And you're going to need to go, huh, that has an alpha here. And then, oh, wait a second, here now it's an eta. And why? Well, it's because it's in a lid case. Okay. Before we do anything more, I want you to open your Bible to 1 Corinthians 14. 1 Corinthians 14. Okay, and when you get there, find verse 4. We haven't learned a lot of these things, but can you find the word, can you look in verse 4 in the Greek text and tell me where the word tongue is in there?
The third word.
It's the third word. And which case is that? Looking at the chart.
That one. Lid.
It's the lid case, yes. And here we have tongue, so it's the same thing. That's not going to change between those two. Okay. So we have glosse. So one speaking.
I lost it.
It's glosse is what it is in the. Yeah, it's the same. Yeah, it's the same. It's just
It has to do with the last.
just that we have the stem ends in a sigma here in glossa. So this is the paradigm we use, but the ending is the same whether we start with the first
So
one or this.
it ends with a double sigma
Yeah.
and a sigma. Oh, it ends with a sigma.
Yes.
Okay, all right,
Yeah.
gotcha.
Okay. Now, so
Wait, what is that all over here? That's just how you.
Those are the
this
endings.
is the ending paradigm if the stem ends in one of these letters,
And that's singular.
just in the singular. It's the only change.
First declension.
Yeah. Okay. So, yes. Look in verse 5.
Okay.
Verse 5,
Hello. I know that word.
which is
I wish.
I wish. So, and I think we've actually learned dab, maybe not yet, but now now or but. I wish all of you to speak tongues. Now we have lid class plural. So I wish all of you could be speaking in other languages like this. And that thing akin that occurs again down towards the end of verse 5. And then if you look towards the end of verse 5, we have the word church.
Yeah. We did.
Okay. And what?
Church. I'm sorry, what?
What case is that?
Nominative.
It's nominative. In which one of those paradigms are you going to use for that one?
Isn't it that one because it ends in a sigma?
It doesn't end in a sigma.
No, it ends in an eta. Right?
No,
Ecclesi.
it ends in an iota.
Oh,
Epsilon iota. Ecclesi. So it's like this one. Basileia. Ecclesi.
Oh, right there. Okay.
So it ends in iota. So this is the one we go with. Okay. Now this one also, we haven't gone over the definite articles yet, but it's using this. It has this for definite article out front. Okay. So I wanted to give.
The kappa, right? Yeah.
So I wanted to give you a chance to actually kind of see it. If you're going to actually look at this in a text, there's some examples of these. I'm going to switch out of this, go back over to the lesson. And let's go down to, let's see. Where am I? Oh, there it is. Definite articles. Okay, I was looking for where my definite article chart is. Okay, so now let's talk about the definite articles that go with these before we move on to the one other situation.
So can we review what
Sure.
lid is? Locative, instrumental, dative.
So locative,
is place.
place, location.
All right.
I'm going to or I am in. Yeah.
Until by means of.
So,
I'm using this as an instrument.
so we would say I'm driving in the car. That's
So
the way we'd
we're-
say. But
So that's locative.
no,
Instrument.
that
Oh,
could
by
be
means of the
instrumental.
car,
By means of the car would be clear.
Oh.
So
How do you get in there? On your bike or in a car?
Okay.
in verses 5 and 6, where we see glossa as in the lid case and it's translated to in tongues, is that instrumental by means of tongues?
Yes, speaking by means of another language. That's the way I would take it. There's some people that would just say it's locative, but I don't think locative makes nearly as much sense as to say by means of.
Well, because tongues is not a case.
That's right.
Dative is reception. That's the indirect object.
That's right. So in that case, if we were to say, let's go with the word you guys know.
Lego.
Okay, Lego.
That's a verb.
I say.
Okay.
I say.
Foghorn leghorn.
Yeah,
Do you know what I'm talking about? Okay. Were you doing that?
Global. No, the truth is, I was doing Michael Plum.
Oh. I have no idea who that is, but.
I feel like you meant to put another sigma, not another
Oh, there we go.
Sounds like.
I'm glad somebody's paying attention here. I'm listening to
I
this.
don't know what that
I'm listening to
word
this
is.
and trying to write at the same time. And then
So,
I want to do this differently. I'm trying to,
Okay.
let's go like this.
Say.
Are you in the way of the?
Sorry.
That was, and don't use your finger. Don't use your finger. Erase that.
Erase what?
I don't know what that letter is.
Oh, right here? Okay.
Okay.
So, you still don't,
Now get out of the way. You can see.
oh. Maybe they can. So-
say te ecclesia. Ecclesia.
Tay.
I say,
Or we could say, I am,
saying.
or I am
speaking.
saying, or I am speaking. Laleo is better because Laleo, this has more the idea of what you're saying. Laleo has more the idea, yes, of how you're kind of enunciating. There's a little bit of a
because
distinction.
that's speak, which we got to learn right here in the beginning of our workbook.
Oh, they actually introduced Laleo
Yeah,
here.
they
Okay.
introduced the
I see. I haven't even
nouns.
gone over the workbook yet, so they've added supplemental.
Mhm.
Okay. The reason we haven't learned that is because it's a contract noun, so it's got an extra letter before
We'll
the
get to
ending.
that in
So,
chapter 26.
I didn't. Okay. So let's put that up there, just since I didn't know that they did that. I didn't actually look through your workbook on this one
That's
today
okay.
in preparation. So we'll go with Laleo. Okay. So I am speaking. So
Or a tongue.
tongue,
Or
in what case is this?
Well, I guess it's,
I didn't, let's make it helpful.
there we go, lid now.
Okay.
By means of a tongue, I'm speaking in a tongue to the church.
To the church. There you go. Because Peggy, and the reason I put this up because Peggy was talking about the dative, and this is so I'm speaking to, they're the reception. They're the ones receiving what I'm saying by means of a tongue. So would be a good way.
So to the church being dative, is that the dative?
Yes.
Because it's right
We don't have,
here.
we don't have that.
You need to put the little.
Oh, I didn't put the Yoda underneath the the subscript. I'm sorry. There's the problem. Okay, yeah.
It was like.
I'm not finding
No,
that in
no.
the right
Dative
location.
No,
Dative nominative.
no.
Come on.
And technically, we should have an Yoda subscript underneath the definite
Ah.
here too.
Oh
So.
my goodness, okay.
Okay. So now let's go down to the definite article here. And the reason I like to start with this one is because this is a lot of the words are going to start like this.
You need to move it.
Oh, well, they're not looking at this anyway. They're seeing the chart. They're seeing the chart up here. So as you go through the chart in the singular, basically you're taking this ending, using it as the definite article. Whereas if you remember, we had this, we had the second declension masculine, the ending is as and the article is ha. So somewhat similar what's going on. But the rest of these, you're just basically adding a tau to the beginning of the ending. So if you learn these endings and just remember that on the rest of these, you're going to add a tau, it's going to make a learning of the, and again, I'm waiting. There we go. What? No, just needed that, just needed underneath the lid case. And then over here, remember we had oi, now it's I, and so the same thing over here, the definite article in the plural would have been oi, now it's I. Own, which as we said, changes. This would have been tois in the second, it's tice here. And then this is the one that's going to be the oddball. In this case, the article is just, so again, you're adding just a tau out in front of each one of these. So if you learn this, if you learn the paradigm, then you're just adding. But they're always this way. When we switch to the alpha in the singular, or the alpha in the nominative and the accusative, in this paradigm, the article always stays this way. The article does not change with this. This
Oh,
is so the article. That's why if you kind of learn this one as the base one, and then learn these as changes.
So these are the definite articles regardless of.
What that ending is.
Gotcha.
Yes. How the ending changes depending on the stem. So we didn't have a lot of stem changes or special cases when you're doing second declension, but we've got these special cases in here. And I do not mean to scare anybody off,
Nobody's scared.
but it's a matter of just remembering to practice it.
Just work. Just work, Peg.
So the key thing to do is just to say, learn this. This is the ending. And then always look at the stem and go, now does the stem end in a double consonant? Doesn't end in a double consonant. If it does, then I come down here and I know I'm going to change the nominative and accusative to an alpha. If it ends in an epsilon, iota, or rho, then I'm going to say, I'm going to change all the singulars, change the etas to alphas. Okay, in those cases.
So.
And I think we're going to,
Beyond that.
I think I'm going to, what?
You are stopping right there.
We haven't having any more information.
For the love of God, stop.
We're really doing this.
I messed that up. I messed something up on my notes on here. I just realized it.
What'd you do?
Well, when I get to the masculine, I copied the chart and I did not remove the, for stems ending in sigma, double lambda. So ignore this second line. I will remove that. I will remove.
Here. I'm gonna do it for you right now. Do you have your drop on? When it says Tim Fisher, is that your iPad?
That would probably be my computer. So you need to find Peg's
I got
iPad.
you.
I basically, this is my Bible, adding everything else to it.
Yeah. You're okay. Here we go. Hold on. I turned it on.
Oh.
Hold on.
I may not have your drop on this.
I just turned it on.
Yeah.
Everyone, including the person sitting right next to me. Does your iPad receive text messages?
Seriously, I
Emails?
got
Oh,
this
okay.
for my Bible.
Does it receive emails?
Does she have her, do you have your,
Are you on the internet?
yeah, I mean, you may need to turn on your Bluetooth.
Oh, it automatically turned it on.
Oh, it
when
did.
When I turned on the AirDrop.
Okay. Well, let's finish this up and then handle that for just a second, because we're not going to go over this in detail. We're going to save this for next time because we're going to go back and review all this next time.
Okay, go for it.
Okay. This chart here, which is the chart that everybody can see here online, this chart we're going to have, and we had two of these in a vocabulary. These are first declension, but they're masculine. And everything is largely the same as what we have in first declension, except that in the genitive, they have oo. And, yeah, so instead of ace, they go to oo. Okay. They have oo. This is the other difference. And this is the one thing that's helpful. They all take the traditional second declension articles. So that's going to be one of the things that's going to look weird is you're going to see maybe this ending, but that article out in front. So it's going to be ha prophetes, not
So-
ha prophetas.
Because it's masculine, it's gonna have the second declension
Articles,
articles,
that's right.
but first declension.
Endings, with the exception of the genitive ablative, which is oo. So that's the one oddball in the rest in there. And this is going to be that way with mathetes too. It's going to be ha mathetes and such. So, okay. So we unloaded a lot, but this is, and I'm going to stop the sharing. I have got to get these up. I think I told Robin this the other day that I was going to put them up, and I never did because I was in my office all day and I did not go home and get on Peggy's computer because Peggy created, and I'm going to try to put these up on the website, But Peggy created a chart that essentially is like this. This is, and you can create one for yourself, but I'll try to get these up there.
I changed it though, so don't do anything.
Yeah.
Don't do anything.
But I'm just, this is roughly what you would want, what I think you would want to do. You'd want to create, probably you want to put somewhere in there stem. This is singular, this is plural. And then you want to list what it is up above there. You're going to want to say first declension or second declension. And then you're going to have nominative. You can separate these out, or you can just be lazy, put them all together. Accusative and vocative. And then you're just going to, and then you just have these charts.
There's a student with a question.
You print these out, and then you just keep writing these words out. Yes.
Vocative?
Oh, we didn't really introduce vocative for the most part in here. Yeah, because vocative has the same ending as we have. Vocative is going to have the same ending as we have in the nominative case. We don't have that. We don't have that little funny epsilon that we have in some second declension ones.
So it's always.
So if it ends in epsilon iota or rho, it'll be the alpha is a vocative case.
Right.
This looks exactly like the nominative in each of those.
Right.
And the masculine.
Right. Yeah.
Okay.
The only difference is going to be what?
There's no difference.
No, it's just in the masculine, because remember that the masculine ones were different, and so they have an ending when in instead of an a. Yeah. Because we're doing A class vowels. But a chart like this,
Well,
what?
second declension, that's,
Yeah.
It's not an O.
Yeah, I know it's an epsilon. But this is the chart. Peggy has something like this, but you can make this yourself. Like I said, I never had charts when I went through Greek. I just had lined notebook
Just get
paper,
lined notebook paper.
and a good way to practice these is take every one of your vocabulary words and classify them by however, and just don't worry about the masculine right now. We haven't spent a lot of time on that one, but work on these three and just write out every one of the vocabulary words in full form, write it out, say it out loud, and repeat it. In fact, I know we're all busy, but if you took a half hour every day and did that for every one of these first declension vocabulary words that you have, and you practice those every day on a piece of paper, or if you make a chart or download a chart and fill those out, I think it'd help you review the vocabulary word, but it would also be helping you learn your forms like this. So that is your assignment, is to go ahead. I'm not going to have you work on anything out of the workbook. I want you basically just work on memorizing these endings. So writing those out, if you have time and you want to work in the workbook, you can, but I'm not going to sign the workbook until we get to Thursday, and then I'll sign that for next week. I basically want you to just work on getting these endings and practicing those again and again.
Okay, thank you.
Well, I want you to practice the endings. So.
That's what I thought.
Sorry.
Okay, I am trying to shut this off. Just give me a second.
Shut her down. Shut her down.